Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good morning everyone. So today I will give a lecture about the topic 9. The topic is about the multimedia development process 2, which is we will discuss about first design principle in multimedia application, the second one visual and color, and the last one is about the interaction. Okay, the learning outcome from this topic. First, you should be able to apply design principle in multimedia application, describe visual element, explain the color element, and also evaluate the interaction design. Okay, before I explain more about this topic, first of all, you all must need to know what is gel start. Okay, gel start is a German word that roughly means configuration, or the way things are put together to form a wall, which is the gestalt law explain how the individual elements from the environment may be visually organized into field and structure. Okay, in the simple terms, gestalt theory is based on the idea that the human brain will attempt to simplify and organize corporate image or design that consists of many elements by arranging the parts into an organized system that create a wall rather than just a series of disparate elements. Our brain are built to see structure and pattern in order for us to better understand the environment that we are living in. So, there are 11 individual principles commonly associated with gestalt. Okay, so the first principles is law of balance, or we call it symmetry, which is it's human nature to group like things together. In gestalt, similar elements are visual group. Regardless of their proximity to each other, they can be grouped by color, shape, or size. Similarly, can be used to tie together elements that might not be right next to each other in a design. Okay, from this slide, we can see that the square here are all equally spaced and the same size, but we automatically group them by a color, which is they have a green color and also the gray color, even though there's no rhyme or reason to their placement. So we will divide each of this square into the same color. Okay, so here is the example of the element of balance or symmetry that is used by the designer in producing various logos like this slide. And if we look, all these logos, the graphics are balanced and look attractive. Okay, the example of logos such as BMW, Mercedes, Audi, Mitsubishi, Mars, McDonald's, and also Olympic skiing. Okay, next, the second law of gestalt theory is law of continuation. Okay, what is the continuation? Continuation is the eye possible that human eye will follow the smoothest path when viewing lines, regardless of how the lines were actually drawn. Okay, you can see from this slide that when we look at this picture or slide, our eyes tend to want to follow the straight line from one end of this figure to the other, and the curved line from the top to the bottom, even when the line change color midway through. Okay, the designer or developer of a website also use this law of continuity when they design the interface of the website. Okay, because the law of continuity says that item placed in a certain row of direction are seen as a group. Okay, as you can see that this is how the row of directions. Okay, in the following example, and you can see the main menu item and vertical submenu here, item are placed one under another are placed in column as well. Okay, the perception of group item is strengthened by the law of continuity. Simple, by jumping the submenu item a few pixels to the right and placing them a little closer to one another, we distinguish them as a subgroup. Okay, this is also the example, the law of continuity, which is this line visualize the menu on the template, and then before we get to the menu button, we run our eyes along the line. Okay, first we look at the lines, and then we can click the home button, and also the product, service, company, and also the context. Okay, next, the third of the law of gestalt theory is law of closure. Okay, what is closure? Closure is one of the coolest gestalt principles. because it's the idea that your brain will fill in the missing parts of a design or image to create a wall. Okay, we can see from this slide, this is this logo of closure. They use the element, use the law of the closure, which is the letter used to form the word closure are sliced into parts, but our mind complete the unfinished form. Okay, in its simple form, the principle of closure allows your eyes to follow something like a dotted line to its end, but more complex applications are often seen in logo, like that for the Worldwide Life Fund. This is the example of the logo of Worldwide Wildlife Fund, WWF, which is a large chunk of the outline for the panda are missing. Okay, there's no line here. But your brain has no problem filling in the missing section to see the whole animal. Closure is quite often used in logo design. Example, this WWF logo. The gesture principle of closure is illustrated beautiful in Worldwide Life Fund panda logo. So the brain completes the white space even though they are not well defined. Okay, the example of closure you can see from this slide. Okay, from this slide, what image that you can see? Okay. Actually, this is the famous dog picture. You can see it is as a dog. Illustrate a Dalmatian dog sniffing under a stand of tree. When you squint at it for a moment, you can see that the dog come together from the disparate black and white blocks of the picture. Okay, this is a dog. Okay, the number 4 is the law of figure ground, which is they have two different foreground colors. Let the view perceive different things from the same illustration. Basically, the figure ground principle is similar to the closure principle in that it takes advantage of the way the brain processes negative space. You have probably seen example of this principle floating around in social media as part of a logo. Okay, your brain will distinguish between the object it considered to be in the foreground of an image, the figure or focal point, and the background, the area on which the figures rest, where things get interesting when the foreground or background actually contain two distinct images. Okay, like this slide, some people will immediately see the trees and the birds when viewing the logo for the zoo. Okay, this is the logo for the zoo, while others will see the gorilla and lion staring at each other. Okay, this is another great example of the figure ground gesture principle, which is continuation. Okay, because your eyes will follow the line of the B path as your eyes tend to naturally follow a line of curve. Okay, a simple example can be seen with this image of two faces creating a candlestick or vase between them. In this famous illusion developed by Danish Edgar Rubin, the viewer is usually presented with two shape interpretation. First, two face, or vase. It's another excellent example of the figure ground principle. In general terms, your brain will interpret the larger area of an image as the ground. In general terms, your brain will interpret the larger area of an image as the ground and the smaller as the figure. As shown in the image, you can see the lighter and the darker color can influence what is viewed as the figure and what is viewed as the ground. Okay, this is we can see as the vase, and the other image you can see it looks like two faces. Okay, next the number 5, the law of the gesture theory is the law of focal point, which is every visual presentation is a focal point called the center of interest or point of emphasis, which is the focal point principle state that whether stand out visually will capture and hold the viewer attention first. Okay, when you look at this image, for example, the first thing you notice is the red square because it's so different than all of the black circle around. It's the first point of interest that grabs your attention, and from there your attention moves to another part of the image. Okay, usually developer use this law of the focal point when they develop a website. Okay, this is the example of the Twilio website, which is they use the focal point principles to draw your eyes to their call to action button. Okay, this is the button, which is the color is different from the others. when we go to this website, first thing we must look at this red button other than another button lah. Okay, and from this example, Instacart combine the focal point principle with the figure ground principle to draw your eyes to the white foreground. Okay, this is the white foreground, and then to the green find store button. If you understand how the human mind works, it's easier to directly pay attention to the right place. And keeping this principle top of mind will help you keep the user at the center of your product development process. Okay, the number 6 of the law of gesture theory is law of isomorphic correspondence, which is all images do not have the same meaning to us because we interpret their meaning based on our experience. Okay, isomorphic is how we respond to some images based on our experience in the physical world, which is we are responding to the meaning of the image, associating it with memory we have. Isomorphic correspondence can make us think of something when we look at something else. Okay, you can see from this image, when we look at this image, even though this image using the different language, which is Aqua, but we can know this is a symbol of the idea. Okay, we will interpret its meaning as a help or question icon, even we could not understand the finished word of Aqua. Okay. Okay, the number 7 is law of pregnance, which is, or we can call it as good form. Okay, the law of pregnance is something referred to as the law of good figure or the law of simplicity. This law holds that when you are presented with a set of ambiguous or complex objects, your brain will make them appear as simple as possible. The word pregnant is a German term meaning good figure. People will perceive and interpret ambiguous or complex images as the simple form possible because it is the interpretation that requires the least cognitive effort of us lah. The pregnant law shows how our eyes can simplify complex shape into the simple shape. Okay, we tend to prefer recognize things which are simple and clear rather than complex and awkward. That which is distant stand out, while that which is less clear may not be noticed. Simple and familiar shape will be seen first. Okay, primary shapes such as triangle, circle, square will stand out. Even if they overlap, we can see the shape rather than a bunch of lines. In this picture, okay, you will probably notice a square, triangle, and a circle, even though they are rather thickly blended together. Okay, this example of IBM logo, which is use the law of pregnance or good form, which is IBM logo consists of little white bar to form 3 individual letters. And then the example is also the Macintosh font. Know that the Mac logo shows not just a happy face, but a happy face in profile. Presume, which is will be looking with delight into their computer screen. Okay, this button also use the law of the pregnance or good form, which is the rounded corners, okay, borders, gradient, color scheme, and resulting illusion of 3D depth. Set the button apart from its surrounding, inviting the user to perceive as something apart from the background and makes it easily identified as something that can be activated. Close the grounded corner, the border, and especially the green color, and the button do something of what makes it stand out from the background. Okay, next is the law of proximity. Proximity, also known as a grouping. Proximity occurs when elements are placed close together. It is when the close arrangement of elements create a group association between those objects. If individual elements are also similar, they will tend to be perceived as a single wall, even though they are separate elements. Okay, this slide shows all the items are placed without the proximity, which is all of these square are seen as separate shape. But when we look at this slide, you can see the arrangement of blocks on the left are not close enough to have proximity, while the group on the right is perceived as single wall element. Proximity used to close arrangement of elements to create a group association between those objects. If individual elements are also similar, they will tend to be perceived as single wall, even though they are separate elements. When the square are given close proximity, unity occurs. While they continue to be separate shape, they are now perceived as one group rather than this picture. Okay, from this slide, you can see that shapes don't have to be regular or the same size to create proximity. Proximity or grouping can be achieved with a lot of different commonly, including shape, color, texture, size, or any other visual attribute. Okay, one basic concept of grouping in web design is with navigational links, where not only do we keep the navigation links together, but also group them internally. Putting links linked to similar pages together, categorize them into subcategories, and also on. Okay, this also does the picture using the proximity, which is we can see from this picture that they have two grouping here. The first one is the logo, Europe Music Award, and the other one is a logo for the sponsor. Okay, and then the white space held from the two groups as do the two blue triangles in the corner. Note that triangles are not present in the unoccupied corner, thus they are reinforced the notion of the two groups. Also note that the two organization logos are larger and positioned top and left, thereby increasing their importance in relation to the cluster of smaller logo to the bottom right. The two clusters of logo, not only from groups for design purpose, but also for the semantic purpose. Okay, and then for this example of a fairly straightforward the web from Yahoo website, notice how the form is grouped into three segments, which is the first one is the ID generation, and then the alternate ID provisions. The form implies that the first set of fields is the most important, and the third is the least important. They are grouped by heading themselves ordered by number and set apart by color, and the fields themselves are arranged vertically with the left side of the field aligned with one another. All of these reinforce the relationship of the three groups of information, sort of importance. Proximity is used to indicate grouping and importance. Okay, another aspect of proximity is the propensity to perceive items arranged on a line or curve to be related to one to another. Designers to Nicholas create a nifty circular menu in 2008 because the circle that all icons sit on, and because of the light gray circle that compose the background of the menu, the icons are perceived to be part of similar group. It also helps that icons are thematically similar with similar colors, size, and also style. And Nicholas said that menu hovering over an icon bring up a menu description inside the inner circle. Okay, the number 9 is law of similarity. Similarity occurs when objects look similar to one another. People often perceive them as a group or pattern. This effect can be used to create a single illustration, image, or message from a series of separate elements. When similarity occurs, an object can be emphasized if it is dissimilar to the other. This is called as anomaly. The design has similarity because the individual elements that make up the design have the same basic shape characteristic. Okay, this is an example of the similarity. Okay, and then the similarity between different elements can be shape, color, size, texture, or value. The more commonly that individual elements have, the greater the sense of coherence. The more commonality the individual elements have, the greater the sense of coherence, thanks to similarity. Okay, so this is the better album cover that this cover use both similarity and also the anomaly. Okay, from this slide, you can see that all the group things perceptually if they appear similar to one another, which is this is also why so many designers prefer to use blue underline links, or at least have all the links appear distinct at the same as each other. Similarly, appearance equates to similar function. Okay, which is the group background of the first 4 menu item, group item together, and also set them apart from the other item. And also, they are also highlight by the icon that's beside the first item in each group. Okay, this example of the simplicity that we use the same shape for the button for home, about, works, view, and also mail button, which is a round shape, so that it looks synchronized and so simple and looks more attractive than the crowded interface. Okay, the number 10 is law of simplicity. The law of simplicity indicates that elements are always perceived in the most easy ways possible. Further, simplicity of the world emphasizes the importance of striking features, which can be used as advantage on a website. Keep it simple and the focus of what really matters. We try to keep our website as simple and clean as possible so we can focus on what we really want to communicate. Okay, this example of the Google website, which is the developer use the simplicity element of just.theory, which is by moving important material far away. For the moment, you can make your message more powerful and more appears like less simply moving it far away. Okay, the last one of the law of the just.theory is the law of unity or harmony. With the law of unity, elements that have a visual connection are perceived as related, where elements with no connection are not related. Okay, you can see the example from the next slide. Okay, for figure 11.1, you can see that this is not the unity or harmony, but for the figure 11.2, it's a good unity. Okay, why? Because if the related object do not appear within the same form, like this figure 11.1, so the viewer will consider the separate objects to be unrelated to the main visual design, leading to confusion lah. But and then the figure 11.1 is example lacking in unity, and figure 11.2 is example of unity in presentation, where all objects are arranged together into the unified form. Okay, that's all for 11 just.theory. So, name the just.principle. Principle. So you can look the following images and try to name the just.principle principle that the developer use. Okay, the first one. Okay, this is the logo of the Loretta Lynn, which is the developer uses similarity, proximity, continuation, closure, foreground, isomorphic, correspondent. And try to look the another graphic at the newspaper. They also use the principle of similarity, proximity, continuations, closure, this is closure, figure ground, and also the isomorphic correspondent. Okay, from the slide number 49 to 69 are example of the website that do not use just.theory, and also the changes after using just.theory. So I think all of you can read by yourself in the notes on each slide. So you all can make a difference before and after using just.theory element in the development of this website. Okay, for this picture, this example, the developer did not use the just.theory, but after they came or using the just.theory, this example how the website is more attractive or more beautiful than without using the just.theory. So the element of just.theory that the developer use, such as this is they use the figure grounds, and then they use the focal point also, similarity and continuations, and then the focal background. Okay, and then from this slide I also already state the example of the just.theory that developer use in the design for the website, and also I also mentioned the figure example. This figure 12.1 to 12.4, the developer used the theory of simplicity. Okay, you can look back from the slide. Okay, you can read by yourself. Okay, class. Okay, this slide is show how the element in the graphic or interface are structured. Okay, from this slide, which one is easier to remember? Okay, you can know the place. Where are the place? Okay, but when you see at this slide, an organized and active layout can give a clear meaning and picture rather than this slide. Also, role of visual instructions. First, provide a concentrated reference for idea. First, iconic more easily to remember as compared to words, because we are easily to remember the graphic rather than the words. Okay, the number 4 rules of visual instruction is to provide redundant channel. Okay, sometimes we find it difficult to understand words and easier to understand them using by a picture. Just like when we try to search a location, listening to instruction is more difficult. Sometimes we can get lost. It's better to look at the map or use GPS than to listen to the instruction. Okay, they have three process of visual design. First, element, pattern, also the arrangement. Element, which is we selected the verbal, and then pattern, choosing an underlying pattern, and arrangement, arrange the individual element within the underlying pattern. Okay, you can see from this chart or from this graph, it's a process of visual design. Visual design element, the example is realistic, analogic, organization. For the verbal element, the example one is the letter style, number of style, capital, color, size, outer spacing. And it appears also a surprise, texture, and direction. A visual design pattern is alignment, shape, balance, style, color, scheme, and color appeal. And view design arrangement is proximity, directional, figure ground, and also the consistency. Okay, and then from this picture, when we're selecting the visual or verbal element to be incorporated to display, the type of visual selected for a particular situation depends on the learning of task. Okay, this is an example of verbal, the text one, and this is an example of the visual. Okay, visual element consists of realistic, analogic, and also organizational. Which is from this slide, we can see that the more realistic a visual is, the closer it is to the original. Okay, this is the apple abstract, and the realistic one is the real apple. And then there is the analogic visual. This analogic visual is about the function of human memory with the function of computer memory, which is we can look from the diagram. It's more easier for us to understand the difference between the human brain and also a computer. Okay, next, organizational visual, such as a flowchart, graph, maps, classification, also the chart. Okay, when we do a verb element, they have a few guidelines that we must remember or we can follow. The first one is the letter style. Letter style, it should be consistent and harmonious within the other visual elements, straightforward and plain style. And then the second one is the number of lettering style, which is must not more than 2 different types of styles, and limit variations such as bold, italic, underline, size changes to 4. And the third one is capital. Use lowercase letter. Adding capital when it's necessary, and headline can be in capital but not more than 3 words. And then the number 4, color of lettering. The lettering color should contrast with the background color. And when we use the color of lettering, we should think about our audience. And then number 5 is size of lettering. Rule of thumb, make lowercase letter ½ height for each 10 feet of view distance. Okay, the number 6 is the spacing between letters. Consider optical spacing, like this FedEx or Lightworks logo. Estimate equal amount of the space between letters. The example of the E and the X in the FedEx logo, create an arrow within the negative space between them. And then the spacing between lines, letters should not to cram or to widely spread. Text is more legible when separation is 1/2 times average letter height. Okay, they have 2 types of element that appeal. The number 1 is surprise, and the second one is texture. Okay, this slide is an example of when we're using the element of surprise, which is your visual has no chance of having an effect unless it's captured and hold the view attention. Okay, surprise, what grab attention? The unexpected, primarily. Think of an unusual metaphor, combination of word and picture, an abrupt infusion of color, a dramatic change of size. People pay attention as long as they are getting novel, stimulus, or new information. They tune out when the message becomes monotonous. And then this is an example of the texture, which is at a third dimension by using texture or actual material. It can convey a clear idea of the object to the view by involving a sense of touch. Example, touching sample of cereal grains, or texture can be simply invite involvement, using cotton balls to represent cloud or showing book jacket to entice students to read a new book. Company product can be incorporated into a display. Component of equipment can be shown with drawing and caption. Okay, this is the example of interaction. Interaction, which is viewer can be asked to respond to visual display by manipulating material on display, perhaps to answer question raised in display lah. Which is this is example of the actual model. Okay, this example of the interaction, which is viewer can be asked to respond to visual display by manipulating material on display, perhaps to answer question raised in the display. The first one is an example by using the technology, which is we call as the augmented reality, and the second one is the example without using any technology, which is the teacher using a few box to show the student how the calculator mathematics. Okay, so the student is more easily to understand. Okay. Okay, next is 6 process of visual design, which is pattern. The first one is the alignment, which is we should doing the balance alignment, and some imaginary horizontal and vertical line. Also, viewer spend little effort making sense of what they are seeing. And the shape, put and arrange visual into shape that familiar to learner. And then okay, I will show you how the example of the shape. Okay, for the shape, simple geometric figure, simple rectangle, and we also use the rule of thirds. Okay, this is the example of the arrange the visual and verbal element into a shape that is already familiar to the viewer. Use a pattern that attract and focus attention as effortlessly as possible, which is geometric shape and letter of the alphabet. Example such as circle, triangle, or rectangle. Okay. Okay, this is a rule of third, and this is the example of the rule of third when we combine with the picture, which is we need to place your unprinted element where this line intersect. A good place to put things: third of the way up, third of the way in the from the left. The place is to put things right in the middle, right at the top, right at the bottom, away in the corner. Okay, if we want to zoom an important image such this picture, the photographer want to zoom or want to focus the bicycle, so we need to put this image of bicycle in the center. But if we want to focus more about the view, so this photographer focus and put at the center for the image of the tree rather than the bicycle. And then this is how this picture looks like without the grid of the rule of third. Okay, the next important visual design is the balance. So what is balance? Okay, this is a formal balance, informal balance, and also imbalance. A balance is achieved when the weight of the element in display is equally distributed in each side of the axis, either horizontally, vertically, or both. When the design is repeated on both sides, the balance is symmetric or also formal. Okay, start as simple. Primary color for children and realistic color for adult, which is different audience and different setting call for different design style. Choice of lettering and type of picture should be consistent with each other and with the preference of the audience. Okay, the next is the color schemes and also the color appeal. Color scheme is considered harmonious, and color appeal considered warm and cool color. What is warm color? Warm color is for the active learner, such as children, and cool color such as for thoughtful learner, such as adult. Okay, this is how the color wheel. You can see that this is the complementary colors and also the analogous color, which is the complementary analogous color may form pleasing combination we use together in the display. Okay, this is an example of warm color and also the cool color. Basically, we use the color for background and warm color for highlight important hue. When choosing color for instructional material, consider the emotional response you are seeking: an active, dynamic, warm feeling, or more competitive to cool feeling. Also, saturate reds and orange appear to approach the viewer, where cool color tend to recede. Okay, the example of cool color, such as a blue, green, violet background tend to recede, and warm, such as the red, orange, important cues approach the viewer. Okay, and also we need to respond related to age, which is the children prefer warm colors, such as red, pink, yellow, orange, brighter combination of instant color, and adult prefer cooler colors such as red, blue, pink, purple, and also the green. Okay, this is process of visual design. We call this at arrangement. The first one is proximity, and the second one is the directional. Viewer assume the elements close to each other are related, and those that are far apart and unrelated. Use this principle by putting related elements close together and moving unrelated elements apart. The example, if we use the proximity. Okay, viewer scan a display with the attention moving from part to another. Okay, the aligned pattern of the element of the display will be the main determinant of the eye movement pattern. If you want to viewer to read the display in a particular sequence or focus on some particular element, use device called direction or directional to direct the attention. Okay, we can use it a row. For verbal material, emphasize keyword by bold type and use bullet to indicate item in list, color element, whether words or image. In monochrome display will also draw eye. Color repeated in different parts of a display tend to show the relationship between or among those parts. And the more extreme the color is, the more likely it will attract attention. Okay, the next process of visual design, the third, foreground contrast. Body should contrast to the background. Okay, example, when we use the background, the white background, so you should use the word or color should be a black, red, or blue, example lah. And then consistency consistent in the arrangement of the elements. Okay, this is the example of foreground contrast. Which is the important element, especially wording, should be stand out in a good contrast to the background. The example, this background is yellow, so you use the word, the color of word is the black. The simple rule of foreground contrast is that dark figures show up best on light ground and light figures show up best on the dark ground. Okay, the last one is the consistency. Which is we need to consistent in the arrangement of element as viewer go through the series of image they begin to form a set of rules about where information will appear in your display. The more often the arrangement conform to this rule, the more viewer trust the rules. Every time the arrangement break the rule, viewer has to expend mental energy deciding whether this is deliberate exception or whether they need to decide the rules. You enhance consistency when you place similar elements in similar location. And then you should use the same text treatment for headline and use the same color scheme throughout the series of display. This is you should consider optical spacing and also the estimating approximately equal amount of which space between letters. Okay, I think that's all for this topic. So that's all, and thank you for listening my video. Thank you, class.